다 가서 아니 지게 점링들이야 맞아 아니 지 대기 주야다 동화세계 된다야 아니 남대 나게 아니 된다 몽고레스 이냐 아니 디나네 야니 된다 상지 준된데데 네 된다 지게 데니기 남대 타바다 탐지 김벽고와 야 토베게 탐름 띵게 나네 다 초도 교바디레스 데라야 아니 전다다 자와레스요 근데 내바디 데니게 전다네 초도 교바 임바디 아니 한디 하고두스 김제 가려 라마 초도 교바 임 김제 가려 라마 상이 줍는 데기 아니 마 저게 우리 지금 동화세야 저기 동화와의 저 규단 다시 말이 바쁜 거래 니방발라 돈이 또 거래스 지상 라시 마주고 또 거래 대 라시 마주고 또 별로지 겁네 니방고 거와스 지상 라시 마주고 또 비게 탑들라 아니 땡지게 남샤 송샤샤스 땡지 남샤 송샤스 제자 김생되네 때네 누구셔야 삼다와인 삼다 제바 지용도 아니 상이 준비를 하바지 아니 탑람 땡엔디 민두스 제자디니 인자 인상이 준비되려야 아니 땡지게 남자 뒤벼 송벼거네 땡지 야 아니 되고프야다 아니 아주이니 아니 제니기 남야고 땡셔바될 땡지게 남자 되라 아니 문제인들 아주게 아니 지게 땡지게 남자 삼당하지 아니 계속 듣고 그래야지 아니 디고샤시시 가서.
So, good morning. Yesterday, we spoke about a verse in which it was mentioned that whilst all beings are the same in having an instinctive yearning to experience only lasting, stable happiness and to be completely freed from suffering, and with this wish, there have been many teachers in the world who have taught methods or techniques to achieve lasting, stable happiness and to eliminate suffering. However, amongst all these teachers, Buddha Shakyamuni, we saw last night, is presented as being peerless, as being incomparable. And the reason for stating this wasn't just the faith that one may expect from a follower of a particular teacher, but rather the reasoning was based on logic. Buddha Shakyamuni is alone in having identified the subtleties of suffering that beings experience, and in particular is alone in having identified the very root cause of all suffering, the ignorance of self-grasping. And then moreover, Buddha Shakyamuni is alone in having presented the method for eliminating and eradicating completely this root cause of all suffering. And that method is the cultivation of the wisdom that realizes emptiness, the wisdom that realizes the emptiness of inherent existence. And moreover, the Buddha presented the most skillful and accessible of techniques to cultivate this wisdom realizing emptiness, that of dependent arising. So it is for these reasons that the Buddha is shown to be peerless, because of his realizations and his teachings. And therefore the Buddha is someone who is truly praiseworthy. And then last night we also spoke about the need then to having come to understand how the path works, to cultivate this understanding of dependent arising within ourselves repeatedly over a sustained period, both in a consistent meditation practice, as well as reminding ourselves of the relationship of dependency throughout our day, through our various interactions and activities, always keeping dependent arising present within us, seeing the truth of dependent, or the way that dependent arising is interacting in all our activities. And likewise in our meditation, to keep dependent arising in mind, not just when we're trying to cultivate wisdom, but whatever other minds of the path we are cultivating, to always see how they too relate to dependent arising. And in this way, we'll quickly become very familiar with this powerful technique.
아니기 땡기기 남자 송바인자 아니 땡기기 남자 송면디 아니 상이 좀는디 저리마도 아니 좀 바산다디기 아니 땡기기 남자디 아니 송면도 수고라 되니 잔 캬바도 파바레샤 사지 땡기기 남자 telaya 아니 가지고 균디기 땡기기 땡데사다 아니 땡데 답에 땡데사 땡기기 나 이여로와 균디기 땡데사지나 땡데 이나래야 땡데 답에 땡데사야 민장 다여 점 사지 민장 파뢰파 샤파 점大把民间大约怎么定这些的，但做送业的送过来的，定这个那么难的，地难的定这对比个送业的做的商业局面的，给定这个那么些，变的，军这个定的那么些送业当，俺那去定的大别定的那么些，地难的也民间大约怎么，俺那来定的让心缺他们去，让心毛主办引发了，俺那累怕大把怎么越怕这些，我的送业的，但商业局面的给俺那送法的先送个嘛送土民都是。但是人家大约比给当然这个南边那里也听一半，但是听一半通过马云比，我点点那些强过来，其实点点的点点送些的点点做的呀，点点算的人家大约怎么点点的习过来。
Buddha Shakyamuni has been presented many times as being praiseworthy because of this presentation of dependent arising that he taught. And he is praiseworthy for having taught this because no one else presented dependent arising. And this doesn't mean that dependent arising isn't known or understood in the world, but rather the subtle presentation that was taught, this has only been taught by Buddha Shakyamuni. So dependent arising, the presentation of this can be divided in different ways. The one way to divide it is into two, and the other way is into three. So the way of dividing it into two is a dependent arising expressed through dependency on causes and conditions, or dependency on one thing on another. So this is the twofold division of dependent arising. The threefold division is dependent on causes and conditions, dependent on parts, and thirdly, dependent on imputation. So amongst these, when we talk about dependent arising, really the two that we need to reflect on most or refer to most often is the dependency on causes and conditions and dependency on imputation. And Prasangika, the highest of the Buddhist philosophical views, they emphasized this dependency on imputation. So they are a unique view of the Prasangika is that nothing exists inherently. Nothing that exists by way of its own nature. Everything is a dependent arising. And here they emphasize, when they say everything that exists as a dependent arising, they're saying it exists as an imputation. Or to express that differently, it exists as a mere imputation by mind. And here, just to say this term mere, we can say equally use the word just or only. So things exist only as an imputation by mind. And this is a unique view of the Prasangika. We'll continue in the text today, and here Buddha Shakyamuni continues. We'll continue to look at Buddha Shakyamuni's presentation on dependent arising, seeing how through through receiving teachings and reflecting on the meaning of dependent arising, liberation from suffering itself can be achieved. And that was the 31st verse. Having seen reality just as it is, you taught it exactly. For those who train by emulating you, all their troubles will recede away, due to uprooting the root of every fault.
却他们讲啊，做了那哪些有的个是呢？那哪些那了，让我们就把那的过来是。那哪些让我们就把能够的办到了，接着接呢，让我们就把的原码的事情，但让我们就把那么些的。给他健康来，毛头或者我们就等就今天做每天这样子来能过了嘛。我等你是哪段了？等你要的不是呢？等你要买的时候了，其实没办法，你那些上有专门地给，年嘛，我这个加把钱，这个年年就公家，等你其实确上了，哪些段了，让我们马主牌的，基本去谁把的时候，基本去谁把的是，基本去谁。这里确定让些马主保人长，确定让些马主保的，按照确定没把这个人，确现在没把这个人没把买的，其实确他们就让我们主保有要买的，应该民间怕略下巴上，略怕下巴大把这么要的是的，你那个工作员南下，其实点把你南下的，商业中年的可能给其他许多因为是的全部的谁把的时候对些谁的。
Den kommer det den på den panik der yang kets na.
Den panik de chida wa shi no we su tu ba de si ba de so la. San ye ye ko rong ni nyam len ji de si ba de.
Our first line here, having seen reality just as it is. So this then refers to the being that became Buddha Shakyamuni. He investigated how phenomena appear to the mind. So everything that appears to the mind appears in a specific way, and this way is what we refer to as inherently existent. So every phenomenon, whether an outer or inner phenomenon, appears to be inherently existent. That's the way it just naturally arises in our mind or appears to our mind. And a phenomenon appearing to be inherently existent means that this phenomenon appears as if it has two characteristics. One being that it is independent of anything at all, and secondly, it appears to be unchanging. So this is the way phenomena appear to our mind. So the Buddha was aware of this. He came to see that all phenomena, or the being that was to become the Buddha, was aware of this, and he saw how phenomena appeared to his mind. Then, in meditation, he investigated, he practiced, and he came to see, in his investigation, he investigated to see if phenomena do exist in the way that they appear or not. Do they exist independently and in an unchanging manner or not? And he came to see that when he investigated, no inherently existent phenomenon could be found. No phenomenon that is independent and unchanging could be found. So this is, we came to then realize, so what we have here seen, he came to see, or he came to realize that no phenomenon exists in the way that it appears. And this is the realization of emptiness, or the realization of ultimate truth. But then, when he thought further, when he analyzed further, the question that then comes, so if no phenomenon exists in the way that it appears, does this mean nothing exists at all? That phenomena don't exist in any way at all? They are completely non-existent? So what doesn't exist, what he came to realize, what doesn't exist is any single inherently existent phenomena. There's no phenomenon that is inherently existent or existent by way of its own nature. But he came to realize that that doesn't mean that phenomena don't exist at all. Rather, phenomena exist as mere imputations by mind, or they exist only as imputations by mind. And in this way, we can say that phenomena do exist. And this is the conventional truth, that phenomena can function, that they do exist, but not by way of their own nature. They lack their own nature, or their inherent nature. That's the ultimate truth. But conventionally, they can be said to exist, how? Only as, or just as, imputation by mind. So So in this way, the Buddha came to see or came to realize the two truths.
라는 상중년에 고랑기 세면 되니기 세비게 세반자 라신 마주바 또 별로디 공제 아니 야는 dim이 말려봐 바빵 아니 상주고방 토바레스 제사 상주고방 지기 빠이 릭념만 차산 빵 차지 윤딩 아니 윤딩 토고야 차산 릭스네 차산 톱차네 상주고바 토바레지로와.
So the being that was to become Buddha Shakyamuni, he went through this meditation process, firstly seeing a phenomena appear, then investigated, looking to see if phenomena exist in this way, and saw that they don't. But he also then realized that it doesn't mean that phenomena don't exist at all, rather they are mere imputations by mind. In this way, he came to completely eliminate both obscurations that are required in order to attain enlightenment, and thereby, through eliminating both obscurations, he completely eliminated every fault every fault on his continuum, and perfected every good quality. And in this way, enlightenment was attained.
무슨 제가 상위 중년에 고랑기 은체 탐제 나와나시 매바랑 뭐니 마주바시 아니 최 탐제 아니 매바야 마음에 민장 파울의 샤바점 또베 따점이 샤바점이 아니 지가 상위 중년에 고랑 년년 전에 상교고 봐 토제 토완자 다디니 상위 중년에 고랑기 진양류 토네 아니 마소리야 나 심지 지금 나도 동아리 코드에 심지에 제비 왕게 아니 인지 왕게 나도 동아리 잘하고도 제가 되게 된 것도 심지에 잠바다 제 왕게 나서리야 안 되니게 상이 좀 내려 그런 냠는 집에 남기 림바디 나서리야 아니 지마 고렘 마주바 마노바 차사와 아니 지 송요래서 내송 봐세요.
So that's the meaning of the first part of our first line, having seen or realized reality just as it is. And in the second part, you taught it excellently. So this then refers to, so the Buddha now has realized that no phenomenon exists in the way that it appears. Not a single phenomenon exists in the way that it appears. Moreover, though, it doesn't mean that phenomena don't exist at all, but they just do not exist in the way that they appear as inherently existent. Rather, they exist as mere imputations by mind. And it's through this realization of the two truths, the ultimate truth of realizing that phenomena are empty of inherent existence, but that they exist there as mere imputations by mind, so they exist conventionally. Through this realization, enlightenment was attained. And then he didn't leave it at his attainment of enlightenment, his attainment of the perfected state. Rather, motivated by love and compassion and bodhicitta, he taught what he had realized to his students. He taught them the nature of suffering, where he taught them that the samsara is pervaded by suffering, what the origins are, the causes are of the suffering. And moreover then, he taught the method for eliminating the causes of suffering, and that would lead to liberation. And he didn't just teach the method, he taught it in the correct and complete sequence, the various mental paths in the correct sequence that need to be cultivated. So he taught the sequence of meditation that is required in order for his students to achieve the same enlightenment that he himself had achieved.
상이 좀는 얘기 아우들이야 아니 상이 좀는 호랑기 냠는지 냠녀 토네 아우들이야 아니직 아 두하세야 단 디기 주에 단다라 상이 좀는 디기마 아니 치 아니 직 마초 거름 마초가 마노와 차사와 송샤와 될이야 마음 주게 상이 되니게 야고 송샤와 삼제 되니게 또 상이 좀 되들 되니게 개바修学샤 제 삼제 상이 좀 된들 대바당 상이 좀 된지 송야기 최될이야 안 대바시 대바지장 아주게 다상이 좀 내서도 나신제 아주게 아주로 빛나 나신제 아주게 될이야 냠년제 아니 아주 퇴삼 곰숨제 냠년제 바이나 지소로 발라서 되니게 로장 제바 이나서 그러다.
For those who train by emulating you. So these are students who have received teachings from the Buddha and received teachings on the Buddha's teachings and have generated a confidence in those teachings, a faith and confidence in the teachings and the expounder of the teachings. And with this faith and confidence that has come based on seeing validity in these teachings, they give rise to a strong wish to train exactly in the same way that those who have realized the teachings, who have given rise to these realizations in their own continuum. Here the students, refers to students who want to train in exactly the same successful way that the Buddha himself trained in. And here they have confidence that the Buddha has taught them not only the complete path that his students can arise as Buddhas themselves, but this complete path is presented in a manner that is unmistaken, so it has these qualities of being complete and unmistaken. So with this confidence, they train emulating the founder teacher himself.
상이 좀된 요소만 나신 자 저게 냠는 제바이나 롭자 제바이나 아니 같이 가는 거래라네 구바 탐지 링도 교수 색송바도 구바 탐지 링도 교수 구바세도 안저기 콜리기 아니 시시 구바세도 안저 콜리기 내라 지기 동화 차산에 구바시고로와 시시 구바베네 루게 나자 생기 동화 안 되니게 안지 콜리기 차산 안에 빵 투부리 해서 그러고 콜리 구바 탐지 링도 교수의 상业전면의 송시의 처리야 아주 냠면지 공잡송다 나신증한 중 냠면 제바이나 마음으로 다다 저게 콜리 교연 망고지 누나 망고 주의를 봐 차상하는 되니게 교연 가는 있나 콜리 교연 차상하는 자만의 민이 마야야기 아니 마 지금 빵 투구리 해서 그러고 구바 탐지 링도 교수야 돼.
So training exactly in the way that the Buddha taught, receiving the teachings and putting them into practice, cultivating them in one's own mind, will lead to what we see in the third line, to all their troubles receding away. So troubles here refer to the vast array of sufferings that beings experience within cyclic existence, both physical and mental sufferings. So through training in exactly the way that the Buddha has taught, which is based on his own knowledge and experience, then the sufferings that we experience, these will slowly recede away and eventually will be completely abandoned. And by them being completely abandoned, they will never be experienced again. They'll never once again arise.
나는 상유 좀는 지교 송바 나신장 아주 냠는 제바이나 아니 코위기 교연 차상마 아니 제마네 라야 기와 내가 아니 제바 투부리에 송로다 지산 투비 김장 가려야 람나 가르치네 람나 다 지시 시바시고래 냐바 니군 자와 도시로서 지산 코위에 니군 자와 도시로서 코위기 교연 다 누가 차상 와야기 귀 자와 귀디 가르치는 레다 뇽망바르는 리고레스 제가 레다 뇽망바세야 된 뇽망바지야 자위 귀디 가르치는 다지 라시랑 최탐제 라신 주바 진배가 라신 주바 진배 진바 만신지레스 제가 상위 좀는 이게 덴지게 남샤 송제 최탐제 라신 마주로 송제바자 데니게 라신 마주로 또 로디 냠면제 권바이나 아니 코리 자와 니가 차상 중세계 자와 라신 주바 진배 진바디 방투도아스 지사디 비노는 거기 누나 귀한 차상 와서게 자와 라신 주바 진배 진바 자와디 빠샤가이나 데리고 니가 되게 야요 말해서 그러다.
Chukchen sama kosong, ini kini danta di kering nyumongi nyimpo, de kola sumpimpe summepe. Ikan danta sumpimpe? Okay.
Sangye jumbe tenjige namni chudamji rashi madhuwa songje, rashi madhuwa tobe lodi gomba ina, ane kowiye tsawa, nyekon chasang junsage rashi ye juba zimbe zimba di bangtugu res, chisa tsawa di bangba ina, dili kowiye kyunna je yongma res, bangtugu res aji.
This statement that all one's troubles will recede away, this isn't just a mere statement of faith, but it is based on reasoning, it's based on logical reasoning. And what is the logical reasoning that establishes that students who receive teachings from the Buddha Dharma and cultivate them in exactly the way that they are presented will be able to eliminate completely all the sufferings of samsara? This is because the Buddha has shown not just what sufferings are, and he has taught what the origins of those sufferings are, and the method for eliminating the causes. So he's taught that all the sufferings that we experience, these are not causeless. They arise in dependence on a cause. And the cause is contaminated karma that we have accumulated. That contaminated karma, that didn't also just come from nowhere, that is also a dependence arising, came about in dependence on the variety of afflicted minds. And those afflicted minds, they too are a dependency. They came about in dependence on a single root cause, the ignorance of self-grasping, or the ignorance of true grasping. This is the very root cause from which all our other afflicted minds follow, and contaminated karma and suffering. So therefore, if the root is eliminated, if the root is destroyed, then nothing can follow in that sequence that results in suffering. So if this root cause is destroyed, suffering will never be experienced again. And the Buddha then continued to teach how to destroy the root cause. And that is through developing the direct antidote, the completely contrary mind, the wisdom realizing emptiness. And this wisdom realizing emptiness is cultivated in dependence on meditating on dependence arising. And that then is the logical sequence that presents, or the logical reasoning rather, the logical reasoning which presents that through training in exactly the same way as the Buddha did, and through cultivating his teachings within our own continuum, we can achieve the same realization that he himself achieved.
Some come je nyamlen che ane che tham je rashi maduba si je za rashi maduba si bi komne de nyamlen che na thar san sanjo ko ba thobare je za dini za ne sang yu jumlen di ye khorang gi sanjo ko ba thobne ta ma zo du jia nam na ko wa lo twi bi che du na dini ma zo ye lam de ma no wa ma chu ba je 차상하지 마 된샤요레스 지사상의 준면디 데니 수마 나신나 주게 냠는 제제 공 냠는 제 롭죠 제가 이나 아니 아주이네 아니 코위기 용마바 차상 빵제 아니 탈고고 봐 투구레스 투비 김제 가려람나 상의 준면디 된디게 남자 송네 최탐제 라신 나주바 또 그걸로도 공부를 송도 와스 디고바 이나 아니 코위에 짜와 용마바 탐제 준세게 짜와 아니 라신 주버 짐바디 도투고레스 도투고인자 나중에 거기 견남질래 줘야지 않아 사요고 도투고레스지 언더나 디송고와.
Meaning of this verse then is that through receiving teachings on the Buddha Dharma, reflecting on those teachings, coming to the point where we are able to meditate single-pointedly on these teachings, we will then be training in an unmistaken way in the complete path of the Buddha Dharma, because the Buddha has presented the complete and unmistaken path to achieve the same result that he did. And by training in the same way that he did, we too will be able to identify the causes of our suffering and cultivate the antidote, the direct antidote to our suffering, and thereby completely eradicate the root of our suffering, this ignorance of self-grasping. And in this way, we will be able to overcome all the sufferings of samsara that currently torment us. And rather, we will attain a state liberated from suffering, a state of lasting, stable happiness.
Sanyi chumne le sunda ma shinji nyamlen cheba ne dunga se tugu res digi chu tugu orwas dini yeza daja ma zulya ane chige che je ku ko bi yebi ki disu tel ya chige nyamlen di ane sanyi chumne di sumba di na ba dambo theba che go res oda theba che bi dön del ya ane ya ne ya do samdang wa ina dön da de ane cheme di yeba ni res Yabani, I don't tell a yana yado gomje, and gomjan, gomjapjan, gombaina, and gomna, and it Yomabadi, as in Tassin Maripa Yomabatsa, you also get Tassin Maribadi, and Panturias, Chesa, the Nianzam, Sanya Jumnity, Sum Delia, and Yana yado Tevache or Tevache, Tube Dundala, Yana yado some died in it, and Dundadu. Gom Gores, Timbawa Baina, and Yumon Batu Maret in the Shewa Yaman Chewores, Cesar, Cherum Jacoro Inea, Yama and Dusus Yaman now in Sumborda, Nidus Yaman now and the cause in Yaman Chewores or Labja.
The advice then that Jerim Piché is giving to us in this verse then is that he is pointing out to us that the power of the Buddha's teachings, the power of the Buddha Dharma, and the parallel of the application or the connection to us that is being drawn here is that we all have a yearning to experience only happiness. We have an innate adversity to any suffering and unwanted condition. So in order to fulfill this heartfelt aspiration to experience lasting, stable happiness, we need to follow the example of Buddha Shakyamuni himself. And the first thing we need to do is to receive the knowledge that Buddha Shakyamuni imparted. So Jerim Piché here is encouraging us to receive many teachings on the Buddha Dharma, and so that's the first part, is to receive many teachings. And then secondly, but concurrently, whilst receiving those teachings, to reflect on these teachings, to do so repeatedly over a sustained period, keep on hearing more and more teachings, reading more texts, and always reflecting on the meaning of these teachings that we are receiving. And doing this repeatedly over a sustained period will come to gain ever greater certainty of the meaning of these teachings. And eventually we will gain a stable enough realization where we are ready to develop single-pointed concentration on the meaning of what we've been studying and meditating and reflecting on, and we'll then be ready to engage in actual meditation with the union of calm abiding and meditative insight on what we have been studying and reflecting on. So going through this process, we are receiving many teachings and reflecting on teachings repeatedly over a sustained period. We'll eventually be able to actually meditate on these. And it's at that point that we start to develop the antidote to our ignorance in a powerful enough way that it can directly harm this ignorance of self-grasping, and then it becomes powerful enough that it can eliminate this ignorance of self-grasping together with its seeds. So this is how Buddha Shakyamuni himself trained. This is how Geshe Rinpoche and all the other masters from the time of the Buddha to the present day have trained. So here Geshe Rinpoche is encouraging us to train in exactly the same way as they have done, and we too will achieve the same results that they have achieved.
Rama Sivanga Rashin Juba Zimbadi, Bangora, Dima Bambana, and Koala to go mare, Jinoma Bapa to go mare. These are Dineza and Guji, Sivarashina Rashin Juba Zimbadi, never Bambala, Din Bodi Karakugo Lana, Rashi Maduba to below the Gomore, yes, Rashi Maduba to below the Gomore. Rashi Maduba to below the Gombola, Rashi Maduba to Toho, Toho, She said that Rashi Madhava can store Lama, she said the Niki Tenjiki Namsha, some Daji, Tenjiki, some Daji, and Rashi Madhu to race, she said, don't you topiki, Tablaya, and Taptili, and Tenjiki Namsha Sumba, yes,
all of us sitting here, we remain bound within the suffering realms of cyclic existence. And this is because the cause of samsara remains within us, this ignorance of self-grasping, or this ignorance of true grasping. And until we ourselves have eliminated this ignorance of self-grasping, we cannot eliminate the afflicted minds that result from this and cause all our suffering and our torment. So in order to fulfill this heartfelt wish of being freed of suffering and experiencing lasting happiness, this ignorance of self-grasping has to be eliminated. And in order to do so, we have to cultivate the direct antidote. The direct antidote to this ignorance is wisdom. And the direct antidote to the ignorance of self-grasping is the wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence. So until this wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence is realized, we cannot eliminate the root cause of all our suffering, and therefore we continue to remain tormented by our various afflicted minds. So in order to cultivate this wisdom, the most skillful technique is to meditate on dependent arising, to cultivate our understanding of dependent arising.
Rani Sanjay Goba Tobala, Tabada, Tamji Kimbo Goba Tobala, Tonyo Togo Gore, just Tony Matobana, and Toto Mevarwa. And Dina, she done as a Tavachim, Yaman Chevana, Simja Tamji, do not say Gorwa, and Simja Tamji, the Yitu Gorwa. She said Simja Tamji, do not already, Tana Jingazana, so do not really good is our the Karasane. 다시 말이 받던 리고래와 디나시 심지어 탐지기에는 심지어 수리네 두말이야 차사 그러니까 진례디 그래서 녀모바래 리고래 녀모바디야 수수라는 길라 마스가 하시는 거지 집어도요 봐 안텔레테네 리고로와 차사 심지어 탐지 문화가 자와라 심지어 탐지는 가소래 라시 마라시 두 집어도 빵고로와 Dipa de la Chike Minji Pantu and Merada, and the Chigan Labifa Tunji never so any Merava, and then the guns never so so Rangi, Di Dame to be Rashi Madu to be Lodi, Gom Horo, Gom Chene, Gom Chujan, and the Gomni never so horror. Di Gombala, Nasuzuki, Semja Tamjeria, Rashi Maduba, Gom Gureshala. Rashi Maduba Tengu, Consulia, Rashi Maduba, Dinner Comborma, Labja Jawa, the Labja Jawa, so Rashi Maduba, Madovana, and Rashi Maduba Tinshima. Chisa, Dineza, she has some Tamji, do not say that Diguduegi, Champion Duela, Sosurangi, Rashi Maduba to Tohures, Chisa Rashi Madu Togure, Rani, Sosurangi, Yamaba say that do not say some Tavana, Rashi Madu Tohore, Chisa, Sure Tamji, Rashi Madu Toadi. And Kasur Rangi Digi Duala, Rashi Baro Tohudu, she has some general Penda Duala, she has some general Dumasela, Rashi Baro Tohu,
what is being said up to here is that in order for each and every one of us to attain liberation from our suffering, we have to identify the root cause and then cultivate the antidotal mind, the wisdom realizing emptiness. And through doing so, we will achieve liberation from suffering. And this is true for myself, it's true for yourselves, it's true for all beings. Because all beings are the same in so many ways. On a superficial level, we can observe differences, but on an inner level, on the innermost levels, we are all the same in wanting to experience only lasting happiness, wanting to be completely free from suffering and pain and difficulty. But moreover, we are all the same in that we remain trapped in cyclic existence and continue to be tormented by our own afflicted minds and our own contaminated karma that each individual being accumulates due to their own afflicted minds. And each and every sentient being is the same in that they remain trapped in the suffering state due to their ignorance of self-grasping. Here, on these deeper levels, there really is no difference between ourselves and any other ordinary being. They, like us, grasp at phenomena as existing in the way that they appear. They, like us, every phenomenon that appears to the mind appears to be inherently existent, and like us, they believe that it does. And thereby, through grasping at this appearance of inherent existence, minds such as attachment and anger follow. And these all come from having this ignorance of self-grasping. And moreover, they, just like us, wanting to be freed from suffering and to experience lasting happiness, need to eliminate the root cause of their suffering. And like us, this can only be done through developing the conscious mind, the wisdom realizing emptiness. So in all these ways, there is no difference between ourselves and others. The only technique for ourselves and each and every other ordinary sentient being to be freed of the sufferings that torment them is through cultivating the direct antidote to the cause of suffering. There is no medicine that can be bought from any health practitioner. There is no one who can, with the skill of their body or their mind, can remove the cause of our suffering, or through some ritual can wash away the root cause of suffering. None of those can eliminate the cause of our suffering. There is only one technique, and that is to cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness. And how can sentient beings develop this? The method again is exactly the same for us. So again here, there is no difference between self and other. The only way that the wisdom realizing emptiness can be cultivated is through receiving teachings on the wisdom realizing emptiness. Through receiving teachings that phenomena lack inherent existence. Through receiving teachings that phenomena only exist as mere imputation by mind. This is the only technique, through hearing, through reflecting, and through meditating. So this unmistaken path is the unmistaken path that we as individuals need to cultivate, and each and every suffering individual needs to cultivate. When you think about this, and compassion arises for the situation that others find ourselves in, this then we can utilize to strengthen our motivation to receive teachings on the Buddha Dharma, to overcome any obstacles we have to receiving those teachings and to reflecting on those teachings, wanting to become a being who not only is freed of suffering ourselves, but a being who is qualified to teach from both knowledge and experience to others, so that those who are lost now, lost without a valid path, without the knowledge of the path to cultivate within themselves, we can present that path to them and do so in a way that is skillful and a way that they can relate to. So thinking like this adds to our motivation to receive teachings, reflect on these teachings, and eventually meditate on these teachings.
Rangi rang soso rang thaba kowalu joya dira tonye to gore rashi matuba to gore semjen thamji kowalu jowa la ya sosrangi semjen thamji pemba tupje shen semjen thamji kowalu jowa jeba la ya soso rashi matuba to gorwa sisa rashi matuba to gore yena da na rashi matuba de kan samda to gore la na ane tendi yin namsha samda to gore se ne jik sonwa da.
So to summarize what has just been said, for each individual, all of us sitting here, to attain liberation, a complete end of our suffering, we need to develop the wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence. For each and every single sentient being without exceptions, self as well as other, for them to achieve liberation from suffering, they too need to realize the emptiness of inherent existence. So there's no difference here. And the very best technique to do this is to contemplating the presentation on dependent arising.
Kala Matuba Koromono Yeti Gansaro Shiranga setting Na said Gansadi Yena, Kala Matuba, Yuda Kin Cheshi Kala Koromoni, Rudu Chila, Yuagina Dry Medican, Kidima, Yuagina Dry Medican, Deni Nachi Yabana Gansa Chubana, Deni Nadella, Yavana Della, and Narashi to Bahala Korwa.
In order to realize the emptiness of inherent existence, one has to understand clearly what is meant by inherent existence. So inherent existence has two qualities. The first is it is independent, which means that if something existed inherently, or to phrase it differently, if something existed by way of its own nature, its own characteristics, it would be independent of anything else. Nothing else would impact on it. It would not be a result, its causes wouldn't impact on it. Coming into contact with any phenomenon would have no impact on it. It would be independent of everything. Secondly, it would be unchanging. It would be unchanging because nothing would impact on it. So it has these two characteristics of being independent and unchanging. And all phenomena appear to our mind in this way as being inherently existent. So when we think of ourselves, how do we appear to our mind? So our self too appears as being inherently existent. And this then is the inherently existent self. So phenomena appear to our mind as being independent and unchanging. And again, to emphasize this meaning of this term independent, it would be that it's not influenced by anything at all. And this is how all phenomena, including ourselves, appear to our mind. And we've heard then that this is not how phenomena exist. No phenomenon exists inherently. So how to know that this is true? Well, the most skillful method is to reflect on dependent arising. Rashin Duba Nana Charlo, can Chagu to Rajin Duba the Muslim, Chazalo, can Chagu to some died, Mazulo, Child, Nadi, Kala, Tuba, Ramu, and the Tubachi, Nadi, or what, Dipa, Mazul,
당보定我出户了。
So we've heard now what is meant by inherent existence and that all phenomena appear in this way. So then we've heard then that the way to overcome this is to reflect on dependence arising. So the meditation then starts with the first point, and the object. So we heard all objects or all phenomena appear to our mind as being inherently existent. We start in the meditation with the object of the self or ourself. So the first step of the meditation is to see how the I naturally or spontaneously appears to our mind, how the I or the self naturally or spontaneously appears to our mind. So what we try to do in this first step is to see how, without trying to construct anything, how the I naturally appears to us. And so we know that it's what we've heard, the theory is that it appears to be independent and unchanging. So how does the I then appear to us? Well, if we think about ourselves sitting here, hearing a teaching, or ourselves sitting in meditation, there appears to be some kind of I present. An I that is present, not just in this present moment, that this I was there this morning when we woke up, yesterday, last month, this I that has done all these various things in different stages of our lives. In this whole period of time, there's always been this I that we identify with, that has always been present. So there is this appearance of this kind of independent I, this independence of everything that's gone on about it, and is unchanging, that has always been present. This is this I that, or the self, that naturally appears to us. So when you get a feel then for this I that or the self and how it appears to us, that it appears to be independent and unchanging, then this I that appears to be independent and unchanging, a mind grasps at this, believes in it, it takes it to exist in the way that it appears. This mind that grasps at this I as being inherently existent is the grasping at inherent existence, or the grasping at self-existence. And this is the root cause of all our suffering. The mind that grasps at the I as existing in the way that it appears, as existing inherently. This is grasping at the inherently existent self, or the truly existent self, the mind of self-grasping.
samdaba tenchen chewa ho go se di sha da ba ba de ru go da de ni ge su bo le de ne ju tu ge che go de shi nga lu le cha wa na di ni ne go de nga yin na ane ga la ma do ra ngo ne gyo ji ne de me de ga la ma do ba ra ngo ne tu ba chin de go le che sang go de ne gyo de ye de ge ane ji ge mang lu ji ge mang bo le de de ba cha go ro ane di na xin a su bo la ba dang gang ba dang ane ji ge sha dang ba ba de ru go de cha sang ga ne de bi ne ya cha sang gyu na ye mang lu ji le de ne ju de ba chi ma do ga la ma do ba ra ngo ne tu ba de min do ni gyo de le ba de min do go che ni ba cha ne gyo de ye de ge na ne gyu be jin de ba cha do ma ju gi ha go go ba che sang gyo de ye me de ge 자기는 마음이 유화줘야 되는 거지. 그래서 데니시리셔. 그래서 초지 삼다와나 아주 풍부디 간에 삼다 풍부 체시 간에 삼다에 내고 규단기 망보로 초원에 유화줘야 되는 거지만도 유화줘야 규định 대शा를 맞죠. 자기는 레메도스. 그래서 하세요. 선배나와 나신 알아신 두바딩이 풍부디 있나? 또 교육이나 줘야 되는 유단께 살라마도 가지고 그래서 또 뒤에면도 와서 지상에 풍부들이 유단께 제 몽고치를 되려 임발라 대한 교조해야 되는 지레스 아니 아주 삼매 말이네 네 풍부된 네 풍부를 나가 나래 성문도 와서 나래면도 와서 지상 네 풍부 지마도 네 풍부를 네 라바를 나마도 나 말에 와서 네 대자 두 섬다베나 풍부 때문에 라라 나와나 신가지 풍부되는 자기는 예매 노사지 된지기 남자 삼다야 돼 내내 삼다베나 아니 풍부되는 예매되야지.
The first step in the meditation then is to see how the object appears to the mind, so the self, how it appears to the mind as being inherently existent. Now the second step in the meditation starts with investigating, seeking this inherently existent self. So this inherently existent self, the self that appears to have always been with us and has been unchanging and independent, if it exists in this way that is independent of anything at all, it should be findable. And in terms of where to find it, it's not going to be out there somewhere, but it's going to be here within our aggregates. So now in the second step of the meditation, we start the investigation. We start with the physical aggregate, with our body. And we seek this self. And we seek this self within the individual body parts to see if any individual body part, whether it is an outer body part such as a limb or a head, or an inner body part such as an organ or the blood or any other substance, if within any of these can we identify ourself. And so let's just take the head to see if this head is our inherently existent self. If it were, it would have these characteristics of being independent and unchanging. Well, we know our head is not independent, it is influenced by causes and conditions. If it gets hit, we know about it. So our head is not independent. So it cannot be inherently existent. And moreover, it's also unchanging. It's bigger now than it was when we were born. So it is unchanging. It is changing. So therefore, our head cannot be the self because it doesn't fulfill either of the criteria. And then we go through the various other body parts, and it's not just the outer limbs, we can look within the body, and we come to see that this body that we identify so closely with, this body that we consider that is so entwined with our self-identity, nowhere within it can we find ourselves. There's nothing that we can say within this body that is ourselves. And the further way we can analyze is if mentally we separate our body into parts. There's no part we can say that only that part is what I would call myself. Because it's not. It's just a part of the body. It cannot be the self. That part is not an independent self. It is rather dependent on the other parts coming together. So it's not independent, rather dependent. So we investigate in this way, and by doing so, not only do we not find an inherently existent self within our body at all, within any individual part or collection of the parts, but we come to see that this body that we identify with so, this is not ourself at all. It is just our body.
지상 콘도세디 마하디 있나 하는 가라야 맞죠 바람문이 또 교육님의 주에메디 진고래 지상 콘도세디 게 규장建了对的게 되는 교주에 잠잠 콘도 매바잖아 지상 콘도디 규장建了对的人把교주에 되고 시샤 되는자 나들이 민도스 안 마세 콘도디 반 많이 받나 콘도 매바이나 콘도 매바 차서나 나요래 이제 콘도 매래 이제 되는자 콘도에 나를 민도스 자, 되니기 코는 멤버게다 양아주 셈 기부 지게 시대 지게 대화를 쉬베네 네가를 별람나 대양아래면 가서 나서디나 nga kala rang ni tubi nga china na wa na shi rang ni tubi china gyudan kien kala ma de gyugi no dwe me de chingu du jeza dewa di gyudan kien ne de dewa yung du jeza di gyuo dwe samda dewa me ba cha ji dunga le de na yo res ina du dewa de ma ina nga yo jeza dewa de nga le me du dunga de nga le me du jeza sim na lo kani ta ba na bu chimju chi sim chama kani le be ne sim di kijin ma da chin ma da 직 뒤에도 마도 가야 마도가 기진나치라 마도가 셈샤 기네 메디겐 귀된 길라 마도가 기네 되면 된 주어도 기진나 마요가 치마 주어줘야 돼 지레샤 그래서 니네자 나 세대가 나와 나신 가라야 랑문이 줍디게 나디 리다 셈 가니신 좀 제가 가야 네네겐 되니 민두 선비게다 도상으로 시 되니게 내가로 신여도 예 나 가라마도 랑이 많이 주방하디 풍보당 안에 저기 쌤다 가샤샤 관계 때문에 제배네 다 집자원이 민두 선비기다 되는 하도 민두 선비 도사로 진행하러 니어도 안에 이제 동인 하 돼서 하고 동인 하고 그러다
Good. Karen di dumio dan adere drabo de kolasungsong. Ne dodu lapkeo. Dini de kanga kenen yiginam pisepa de yang sungpimpe nebe.
ada sem ganishina chasan jibala sha.
So in the previous segment we were using the presentation of dependence arising to seek the inherently existent self within our body, within our physical aggregates, and we came to see there's how truly the self that appears in a particular way cannot be found in our body. So the only other place we can look is within our mind. So this then is the next part of the investigation. We first look within the body, and now we look within the mind. So the mind, so what we're seeking for within our mind is, can we find the self that appears to us as being unchanging and independent? So the mind can be divided in many different ways. So we can look at, for example, individual minds. So take, for example, the mind of anger. If this mind of anger was our inherently existent self, then it would have the characteristic of being independent and unchanging. If the mind of anger were independent, it would mean it doesn't come about, it's not influenced by anything at all. But as we know from our own experience, and we mentioned in our class last night, our afflictions arise independent on causes and conditions. So our mind of anger, for example, cannot be independent because it arises independent on causes and conditions. So that characteristic of inherently existent or inherent existence isn't fulfilled. And then the second characteristic of unchanging, that too isn't fulfilled because thankfully we are not always angry. Sometimes we are not angry at all. And when we are not angry at all, we still have a sense of self. It's not that our sense of self disappears when we are not angry. And this is the case with all other minds. So we can examine, for example, a mind of pleasure or a mind of happiness. So this too, if we investigate and we come to see, is this independent and unchanging? It's not. So it is clearly dependent on causes and conditions. Moreover, it has parts in that there is a continuity of a previous moment and a later moment. And moreover, there is change between these moments. They are not identical. We are sometimes happier, sometimes not at all happy. So there is change in this way. So whichever of our minds we investigate, we come to see that nowhere within them is the one that we can identify as this inherently existent self, that has the quality of being unchanging and independent. And in this way we come to realize that there is no inherently existent I within our body or in our mind, but is rather both our body and our mind is empty of an inherently existent self.
Yudan Jen Kalama, Yuameva, Deninga, the Yudan, some Gangi Dinin, also was torn to that's Deninga, that's out in the middle, some torn to then another Nasa the Mava Lama, Denida Kalama, Yudan Jen Kalama, Yuamia Dreaming, that's out in the windows. The Mava, that had never revealed, no, no, since in the window. Then I never revealed, on my Meva Maresho, that is a Gadisha, Kupa. No one ashing, no one ashing, run to be working at the meeting idea matters. The main idea matters. In that guy, Maganisio, Pan, Pubomo Bogaruchi, the Lupa, Tabasam Yobares, Lupa, Tasam Chigma to your mares, Tabasam to your pares. Tis other Mingyam, Mas, the Pa, Lupa, Mimpa, Tabasam, Mado, run on your Jubari, in your mares. Tis the Mingyam, Taoyasam said, Nasa de Pa, Lushasam, Tasam Chiores, Tabasam Yores. They took good Chamore, that they didn't Namsha, that Tenjuki, Tuma Maimbe, Denji, Chagote, Dende Chamo said.
Kunzuki Chamo, Kutan Dempaki Chamo.
What is
the Bendigo? Kunzuki Chamo? Tenjuki Chamo.
But we are tired some dinner Yoba said.
So meditation thus far was first to see how the self appears, get a feel for the self that appears to be inherently existent, and then to seek this out. And we seek this out then in the second stage of the meditation, which is the investigation. And we look in the first part in the physical aggregates, and in the second part in the mental aggregates, seeking for the self. Coming to not be able to find a self that is independent of anything at all and unchanging. So now we come to the third part of the meditation, because where we've come now, the point we've come up to now is that the self can't be found. The self that appears so vividly to us, this inherently existent self, cannot be found at all. So then, does the self exist or not? And this is now the third part of the meditation, because now there is the thought will come, I do not exist, because I've looked for the I, for the self, and I cannot find it. Does this mean that I doesn't exist at all? Which on one level seems to make sense perhaps, because we've looked and we can't find it. But on another level it seems a little strange, because I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm sitting here analyzing this, I'm sitting here meditating on this. So then, does the I not exist, or does it exist? So what we have seen is the I that appears to us to be inherently existent. When that is sought, it cannot be found. So this inherently existent self, this does not exist, because we've looked and we can't find it. But now that we are not looking, there is a self, just sitting there and thinking. And there's the sense of I again, the sense of self again. So then, how does the I exist then? Because it doesn't exist in the way that it appears. And how does it exist then? It exists as a mere imputation of name by mind onto a valid basis of our aggregates, the collection of our aggregates. So I'll say this again. So the I that we seek, this inherently existent I, cannot be found and doesn't exist. That I does not exist. But when we're not investigating, there is an I. And this I exists, but as a mere or only as an imputation of a term by mind, as exists only as imputation of a term by the mind onto a valid basis of the collection of the aggregates. And this understanding then, this understanding that comes down the third step of the meditation, this is a realization of subtle conventional truth, as well as subtle dependent arising. And then thirdly, this is a unique view of the Prasangika. So this unique view of Prasangika, that the self is a mere, is only an imputation of a term by mind onto the valid basis of the collection of the aggregates. This unique view of Prasangika is the realization of subtle conventional truth and the realization of subtle dependent arising.
Denigi hago velo de la amanga rashi majuba to lo sigurwa jisan denigi rashi majuba to lo di tabi yane komche nibaya shu cher ta bai na pati nibaya shu cher ta ban ma se de ma ga la ma to ba rang ngone de jo gine de nga zao di mindu sambege denigi tong sa ma to denigi to re sha sambo lo di ga ji shu cher do bai ne de yin zo ma kala ya ma to ba yu da jian che che kala ram ne tu ba yu gi ne do me ne yo sa be sa me di te ni ba chung ju de ne sam de ni ba chung ju to ko re je sa de ni sam de ni ba chung ju de ma ra xin ju ba di jin bu lo se wo di ni ba chung ju to ko de ga je ni ba chung do be ne mi zo ni mo ji de ni ju ko re je ne mo ji ya ni ju ba na le ngam ba sa ni ju ko re le ngam ba sa ni do na je che ma de ne ji ma zo du ma ya da ane ko wa ji di nyung dugo dini enza ndelea dushene di kombe rashi maduba cheba chen raba dini ge dus samtaje ane rashi madu cheba ina ane ma rashi maduba hago tugures chesa nga rashi maduba to lo di komba ina ta nga rashi duba zimbe lo di pa tugures ta dandala tenjige sam dushene samtaje ane komgure seje nga sungor wada
in the meditation that we've just covered, we started by seeing how the self appears and seeing that the self, like all phenomena, appear as being inherently existent, meaning that it has these characteristics of being independent of anything at all and unchanging. And then we went into the second step, which was that of investigation or analysis, seeking this inherently existent self. We looked in the body, couldn't find it. We looked in the mental aggregates, couldn't find it. We then came to understand that the self is empty of existing in the way that it appears, is empty of inherent existence. We came to understand emptiness. So this is the wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence, the direct antidote to all our suffering. This mind then, this wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence that we have all just cultivated now through listening and thinking about this meditation, this we need to cultivate repeatedly over a sustained period. Through doing so, through strengthening our habituation with this wisdom, our familiarity with this wisdom grows in strength. Just like anything that we are familiar with or habituated to, its strength grows within us. So it's the same with anything in life, and certainly the same with this mind of wisdom. The more we train in it, the stronger it becomes within us, the easier it is to call to mind. And by doing so, the contrary mind, the directly opposite mind to this, the ignorance of self-grasping, proportionately weakens. As the wisdom grows in strength, the corresponding mind of ignorance weakens. And as this ignorance of self-grasping weakens within us, everything that results from it weakens. So the resulting afflicted minds, such as anger and attachment, they weaken. And with these weaker minds of anger and attachment and other afflictions, becomes much less likely we will respond we will engage under their influence. And thereby we will either create far less karma, and the karma that we do create will be much weaker. And that then results in far less suffering in this and future lives. So therefore, it is of great benefit to take this meditation and engage in it repeatedly over a sustained period, strengthening our habituation and familiarity to this wisdom, and thereby ever more weakening this ignorance of self-grasping. So this is a meditation that strengthens our wisdom and weakens this grasping as how phenomena appear to us, weakens this belief that things exist in the way that they appear to us.
Shubi Dunda de Layana and Samta Javache, and Gum, Dichawa de Kichimochagore, and de Mase, and Delia, and Lama Devata, and Gonjulia, and Jig Deva, and Jig Sonam Chevupia, Sonam Musa, the Nigi, and Doya Doyagi. Diva Shayada, and the Chiki Hotuvia, and the Molam Jaya, and Lamalia Devachia, and Bushinama Chiki, that's what sort of Jamangura Chiji, and Chiki got Tenjiki some Tasha, then Yamno you can lamits and Shu some Donamato, that Lelo Lamzan to the Kapurua, she's nothing easy to some Dana share, they do Ravara Water, she is only Ravara Water.
This presentation of the meditation on emptiness through dependent arising that I've given, how to reflect on the meaning of inherent existence and emptiness of inherent existence through utilizing the presentation of dependent arising. This explanation I've given is a very coarse or very rough explanation. To actually realize emptiness, one has to go to far subtler levels. But in order to go to subtler levels, one needs to start at the rougher levels, of the coarser understanding. And eventually, through training like this and gaining familiarity and habituation to this way of thinking exactly as has been described, one will be able to progress to subtler levels. When one is progressing towards subtler levels, then it is important to train directly under the care and guidance of a qualified teacher, or to translate it literally, to train at the feet of a qualified teacher. So in order to achieve such an opportunity, one has to create many causes. Such an opportunity is difficult to achieve and requires many causes to have been accumulated. So these causes are, to accumulate these causes, one follows the process exactly as I have presented, through developing familiarity on this meditation, exactly as has been described. This then leads, as one sees a change in one's way of thinking, and a change in one's way of engaging with difficulties in this world, greater faith will arise in this presentation. Greater faith will arise in the teacher of this presentation. And with this greater faith, we will engage ever more in these meditations, thereby accumulating ever greater merit, purifying ever more negativities. So through doing this meditation exactly as been described, it has the results, independent on this meditation, it has the results of our way of thinking changing, and thereby our faith in the teachings developing, and our faith in the teacher developing, our virtue ever growing, and our negativities ever reducing. So these are all the results from engaging this meditation repeatedly over a sustained period. And with this ever stronger faith, then naturally one will do the one extra step, and that is to make aspirational prayers for the success of this meditation, and that for the opportunity to come, that when one is ready to train under the direct guidance of the teacher, that a relationship is formed. So to achieve this is not easy. It only comes about in dependence on the accumulation of the causes all of which now have been laid out for you.
kyugi tenle chishobe yuni ngawa tenje kyang chichir kyonam bheva shin dado dawa tenche rosat.
Now we come then to the next verse, the 32nd verse. Due to being disinclined towards your teaching, the view of self-grasping remains firm. Although exhausted through perpetual practice, faults will ever increase as if invited.
kyugi tenle chishobe yuni ngawa tenje kyang sede da tsije ni de danda kar sumo sene sanje jemlen de kyorangi ane jike dawa ma thimba se roda bene jinan dawa
되네?
다두기 남샤 미팅바 다두기 상유 준비되게 다두기 다음이 된 남자 송고로와 진행에 다도 두번 킬링에 되게 다두 미팅바서 제가 상유 준비되게 다두 다 미팅바 내가 미 치초바시도 상유 준비되게 다두블에 아니 미팅바 치초바 많이 봐서 그러다 제가 진행에 상유 준비되게 아니 다두블에 치초베게 된비게 치료베게 다 된발라서 봐 Bendigo Songshebegi Jesu Zhangje Kongzi Chue Nyamlen Gaze Kasore Jige Jesu Rupche Dine Karso Geshe Rupya Kongzi Dat Lamigi Tarbata Tamji Kimbe Doi Rupya Dona Lata Rupya Namsha Songsha Digi Gaze Nyamlen Jega Gomba Yinaya Ane Jig Tarba Toptu Midusi Orda.
The Tibetan English is a little different, so we're looking here at the first, in English, the first and the third line, which is the first and the second in the Tibetan. So this then is referring to those who have adopted a view or a tradition that is not in accordance, that is not in harmony with this unique view of the Buddhas on selflessness. So those who have adopted a tradition that is not in accordance with this unique view of the Buddha, no matter how much effort they make, no matter how hard they strive and whatever energy they put into their meditation and success in the meditation, it cannot lead to the attainment of liberation from cyclic existence.
지시의 특수바디 지시의 견남 배가 신소를 제가 견디게 주쇼쇼서 나와나 신소를다 가서서는 상기 점된 디기 안에 따주래 베니 치료 봐서 따주대 미팅 비게다 치료비 돈바 고즈그 순제 비게다 베니 쉐로 지나 베네 마슈체나 야고어를 세대 치료 건절이야 심장 소주지 치료 푸네 야고어서 취지 송보와 데니기 송바나신 심장 소주지 치료까지 가되게 푸베이네야 안 디텔라 데네 제보디 뭐보다 두마주물에 마도 디기야요 말했어 제가 두마리 수쇼라가 나신체는 가지래 다 내가 두려디 두마세야 된 디기 두려게 된다를 지고 때 내 대부디 두마를 용거래서 제가 두마를 타고 말해야지 직제 지게 지루비게 덤비게 제소 자제 공원주게 탈바다 탐지 캠비 탈베도 고바 토베도라 띵해진 검체 지기 신이 줍띵해진 줍까지 저 롬망부 아니 베네 좋아이네야 아니 곰바이네야 디 곰비게 텔라 때네 아니 겨치 뭐 코이 내시리 기기리 마도 아니 코와래 타도 민도 말해서 그래 제가 코이 내래 끼어도 너 코이 동아디게 라신이 레용으로 제가 되니 인자 아니 지실견은 배바신에서도 아니 라바도 서울 때내기 안귀세야의 파샤 동아세야의 파샤 라바도 다그 되니기 냠는 제발 때네 디디부들 동아도 코이 동아 레용으로 해서 그래
Looking at our last line, faults will ever increase as if invited. So here, where people are training other traditions, sometimes some of their teachings lead to, despite their teachings being presented as being a valid path to happiness, this is not the case. They may present paths that bring harm or even great harm. For example, some will encourage animal sacrifices, and the tradition will encourage the sacrificing of animals as a path to happiness. But all that comes from this, despite desiring happiness, is that the causes for great suffering are accumulated. And other traditions may encourage particular afflictions, saying that these afflictions in all circumstances or certain circumstances are justified or beneficial. But even though that the motivation is for happiness to be achieved, only suffering is experienced. And in other traditions, a technique to develop single-pointed concentration is presented. And practitioners develop not just single-pointed concentration, but they develop that further to having great power. And they may train for many years in developing ever more powerful levels of calm abiding. And they're doing so expecting to attain liberation from suffering. But as this is not, this is devoid of the antidote to suffering, the antidote to cyclic existence, they cannot achieve liberation. And in fact, from all of these mistaken techniques, beings only create causes to remain bound, trapped within cyclic existence. And they, despite striving to attain liberation, liberation remains unattainable for them.
Bendigo pene sanyi chomden degi an taruble chirudu chiru pene tarubde mitin bege da chiru bege tembege cheso trade dinge sinda denege kaze ka jana tarbase toptuye mendus toptu mendus koale kitu mado koye nele kera mado tarba toptu mendus 제가 니 갈지면 도구 말을라나 타바 토발라 다진 말을 제바나진 다진 말을 빵고 그래서 제가 고원주기 드니제 다진 말이 버디 땜바던 그래서 땜바지 그래서 슈체 누구셔도 다진 말이 버디 슈체다 지텔라 지시바데 나도 따와 땡치로서도 제가 타바 토마토 가려라나 고원주기 나도 주버디 다도 고원주기 나도 주버여래 다도 주버여서 다 요래 숨거와서 제가 다 요래 숨나 나신진 다 요바스 레 삼지 되는 이치제제 같이 인팅이 좀 고바이네 다신 슈체된 거래 다신 슈체다 와다 다신 바투 말와스 다신 바바나 코알을 줘도 말했어 제가 코알을 줘두면 마트에 굉장히 가려라나 다신 슈체된 것도 땜바수고도 세래.
For us, the second line, the view of self-grasping remains firm. So what we've just been hearing is that other traditions, whether they are teaching practices that lead to accumulation of virtue or non-virtue, whatever they are guiding their students in, these practices cannot lead to liberation from cyclic existence. Even if these practices are virtuous, they cannot lead to liberation from suffering. And this is because the ignorance of self-grasping, the root cause of cyclic existence and all our suffering, hasn't been identified at all. And moreover, through engaging in these practices, these may lead to the mind of self-grasping remaining stable and firm, and perhaps even growing stronger. So perhaps, for example, when developing powerful single-pointed concentration, the ignorance that grasps at the self may grow ever stronger. So therefore, not only do the practices of other traditions, even their virtuous practices, not only are they unable to lead to liberation from suffering, but they result in the ignorance of self-grasping remaining stable and firm and possibly growing even stronger.
sanyi tenpadan je teniki chue chiya koqab yoba tila chisang anzu taba tobu kura taba toba la teniki dade 최 냠네 마셔가 있나 타가 도둑 말에 지상 되네 인자 타가 토발라 코위에 동아여서 규자와 다시 말이 봤을 방고레스 지상 디 방야게 방알라 다음에 또 배셔라도 또 고레스 또 공고레스 지상 다디 또 발라야 는 저기 되네 인자 저 안에 건조 숨이야 건조리 대바 상예당 아니 저기 최 상예 최리야 아니 대바 지야다 아니 대안은 랑 지부 많이 bessem전 탐 동아 자되게 신sem전 탐지라 잠바는 제와 삼다 대안은 sem전 탐지 된다 동아 자와다 동아 세등이 지기 시비 하삼으로 삼다 되니기 아니 제발라 나나랑기 디 냠녀야 호심바사가 있나 니 제토야 gün민도 제사 단 sem전 이신데 판바게 좀 두발라 아니 사기고가 딜레 토바 딜레 탑 야가지 민도 제자 심자 탐지 사요고바 토바 지긴 셈베게 삼다지라 디니게 삼다네데 심자 탐지 사요고바 토바라 아니 유유모바 다시 말이 빵고고래 제자 파신주게 냠네 지긴 셈베 삼다다 디니게 다시 말이 빵라 다음에 봐서 또 고래 제자 마세야지 아니 간시도 삼제당도 땡지긴 남샤 삼다 땡지 남자 삼다디 대신에 라바라바 로럽도 쉬와나시 나봉아서 롤이야 차듀가세데 간지 차유도 제때 삼마다 내 차유도 나나들에 가라 떼바메바 요기네 조에메데 차유도 안데니기 가디 차와나시 가디 다 간지도 삼된 뭐 정말도 풍부에 대하다 안나랑 상례도 토네 안가가도 선도시네 심주체야디 안데네레 베스 셰고레야사지 난 디링기 Lobsang Dorje also some dialogue in the Chagdua.
The advice that has been given to us then this morning in these two verses is that firstly to be reminded of this precious opportunity that we've achieved. So independence on the causes that we ourselves have accumulated in past lives, we've attained this precious human rebirth. And not only do we have a precious human rebirth, but we have an opportunity to utilize it in the most meaningful of ways. We now have the opportunity to receive teachings of the Buddha Dharma, and the capacity to reflect on the meaning of these teachings. So having achieved such a basis, it would be a great shame not to utilize this opportunity well. Because it's without this basis of the precious human rebirth and the opportunity to cultivate the minds of the Buddha Dharma within ourselves, it's impossible to attain liberation from suffering. It's impossible to bring an end to this uncontrolled rebirth within the suffering realms of cyclic existence. So therefore, the faith that we have in Buddha and Buddha Shakyamuni, we need to generate within ourselves, and with that strength of mind and the joy at the opportunity we have, having reflected then on suffering and the potential to eliminate suffering, as has just been mentioned, we take this understanding and we apply it to others, seeing how others are in exactly the same situation as we are. Each and every single ordinary being is wanting to experience only happiness, but they remain bound by their own ignorance, and thereby continue to create causes that keep them bound within the suffering states of samsara. We take this thinking and we develop it further to the point where we develop the mind of special intention, this mind of the altruistic attitude of universal responsibility, where we take as our individual responsibility the welfare of each and every single sentient being. We take it as our responsibility that each being attains a state of lasting happiness. And in order to bring this about, we now do not have the potential. We have to gain knowledge and experience in order to be able to help others. And the greater our knowledge, the greater our experience, the more help we can be to others. Because the help that others specifically need is the same help we need. That is to receive teachings from the Buddha Dharma and reflect on those skillfully and giving rise to these realizations within ourselves. So in order for us to be able to impart this knowledge based on experience, we have to perfect our knowledge, perfect our experience. And to do that, we need to strive to become a Buddha for the sake of others. So in this way we generate the mind of bodhicitta. But merely generating the sincere aspiration to become a Buddha for the sake of others will not even lead to our own individual liberation from suffering, let alone all sentient beings without exception. Therefore we have to practice the 6 perfections, in particular the perfection of wisdom, and this, because this is the antidote to the ignorance of self-grasping. And the way then that we can engage in the in the cultivation of the perfection of wisdom is through reflecting on dependent arising, starting with this course presentation that we've been given, and doing so repeatedly over a sustained period, not just in meditation, but like we heard last night as well, throughout our day, during all our activities, just in a rough way, seeing how these come about, independent on other, independent on causes, and they too then lead to results. They too then become causes that lead to results. In this way we keep our understanding of dependency ever present in our mind. And through making great effort in this, repeatedly over a sustained period, change will come.
And we'll
finish here for this morning, and if you have some questions, there's plenty of time. Alan?
The appearance of true existence, that occurs first, then there's the grasping that appears. Is the appearance of true existence an obscuration to omniscience, and then is the grasping of that appearance an obscuration to liberation?
So there's a sequence of the appearance of true existence, and then this is grasped at. So is the appearance of true existence an obscuration to omniscience? Yep. The appearance, an obscuration to omniscience, and the grasping at that, obscuration to liberation.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Dini sapukono dini rimpa dini yore. Dampo chui karina rimpa drupa nangiore. Rimpa dampo, rimpa nipa, sing chigi dela singiore. De rimpa nipa. Dini kari drupani de dandro karire di dempa drupa nangye de shedi prepe then isinya de di drupa shimpa
na di shedi tanyama khaya mare dempa drupa na sa chore di shedi pre dempa drupa na sa chore di shedi pre na
Nella vede che parere.
Lo na ti sicuro di da di na si dico di siete.
È anchok che per cogimento.
Che mo na di su nang se na vi na sa sicuro va di che va kala sa sa vi sa doja sa sicuro va di che va mo ci Penny Chinango, the better Mango, Nadi, Nadi, the better, call your money. Nadi, your money. When your mama, come over to you, good night, Nango, now do now we get now such a now articulate, really, now such a livore. Indeed, and then Pascas or this shitty face or true not here or true not.
And
now she really some Zimbabwe, Yodipcha. That in a shitty bloody Denigi now, Seata, Trumon Seata, and Denigi Basha, la Meship Chagore. Basha.
Said the pre-caller de Granny Sapocomaso? Yankasumba, chicken cockere?
Now we get
now do well too much true this true shitty.
Okay.
True now we get now you true sure what did this shitty play?
Okay.
True. Then Zimbabwe play.
Okay.
Zimbabwe shall Basha and this shitty play.
Okay. Okay. Yes and no. Some of it I can't tell you because I didn't get it. At all. But so the yes part first. Let's start with that. Is that the grasping at the appearance of inherent existence is an afflictive obscuration. Yeah. So that's the yes part. The no part is the appearance of inherent existence. This is not the obscuration to omniscience. That is a non-existent. So the obscuration to omniscience, and this is the part I didn't get clearly, but it was I didn't get the difference between what is not the obscuration to omniscience and what is. But it's something like the obscuration to omniscience is this illusory appearance to the mind of inherent existence. That is the obscuration to omniscience. What I don't get in what I've just said is the difference between that and the appearance of non-existence. But anyway, again, I was using this illusory appearance is the obscuration to omniscience. So that he clearly said, but what's the difference to that and the non-existent of appearance of inherent existence, that I don't get. Maybe you do, but anyway, that's what he said. Okay. Okay, 그럼 송예댕 서볼라핀.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So this is a unique explanation of the Prasangika. The non-Prasangikas say something different. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then thank you.